watching for Paul Murray Live. The Finance Minister is Mathias Cormann, and he joins us now from Canberra. Senator, good evening.
Good evening, Paul.
All right, put simply here, there are a lot of things we'll get into in a second, but I want to ask you about the mechanics of the Medical Research Fund and how it works. How long will it take to get to $20 billion?
Well, all of the savings out of the health portfolio that are in this budget will go into this Medical Research Fund, and we would expect that it will reach the $20 billion in capital in about 6 years.
Okay, now, of the breakdown of the $7 payment, is it correct that $5 automatically goes into the fund? Does $2 go to the doctor? Can you help the breakdown? $7, yep. Where does it go?
That's exactly right. The way you've just described it is exactly right.
Okay. There is a change, though, to some co-payments and the idea of what areas will be included. Can you also confirm that we are not just talking about a co-payment when it comes to seeing a GP, it's also $7 for a blood test, $7 for a specialist visit. What is included and not included in terms of our interactions with medicine that does and doesn't cost $7?
Well, there is a co-payment of $7 for a range of health services, principally like GP visits and various other medical treatments and diagnostic tools. But the important point here is there is actually a limit to how often you have to pay the co-payment if you're in one of the concession card categories, and essentially after 10 co-payments, that is it. You no longer have to pay the co-payment.
So if I'm in a concession card area, so how much money do I earn and less for the 10 payment solution?
Well, it really depends on a whole range of different factors, but you will not pay more than $70 in co-payments towards any of the medical services that attract a co-payment. Okay,
and then by moving to a system where the compulsory $7, $5 for medical research, $2 goes for the doctor, is this $2 on top of what doctors are already making, or has there been a change to the amount of money the bulk billing system gives to each and every GP?
Well, we've made a range of changes, including changes to the Medicare benefit fee schedule, and also we've made some changes to what used to be the no-gap incentive scheme, and which will become the low-gap incentive scheme. So there are a couple of changes in different directions, but fundamentally what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to make our world-class health system sustainable for the future. We want to make sure that patients across Australia can continue to have access to affordable, high-quality healthcare into the future, and healthcare that is affordable for the taxpayer as well. So this is a structural shift where we're taking money out of consumption and putting it into investment for the first 6 years as we build up this Medical Research Future Fund, and then moving forward we are able to put our health system on a more sustainable funding footing.
All right, now in a second Janine will jump in, so be ready. But in the meantime, though, I wanted to ask you, though, about the changes when it comes to roads, the fuel excise, and the Treasurer did use, he didn't spell out LAW law, but he pretty much made it clear that the money raised from the extra fuel excise goes toward the $80 billion. Are you saying that we are going to open, effectively, in common language, a new bank account that is just for roads, and that's protected by law?
Well, what we've said and what the Treasurer has said is that we would be directing all of the funding from the increased revenue as a result of indexing the fuel excise into road infrastructure investment. And of course in this budget we have already announced $50 billion worth of federal investment in productivity enhancing economic infrastructure, which will leverage additional state and private sector investment for a total investment of about $125 billion. So the short answer to your question is yes, all of the increased revenue from reintroducing indexation of the fuel excise will go into road infrastructure.
Now, the Treasurer in today, in a couple of days, has been trying to build this narrative of, if you look at it exclusively through the micro, you mightn't like what you see. If you step back and look at the macro and things like medical research, like the roads funding, people are going to like the idea. You know, and I do, that you know as I do, that many a budget, both sides of politics, best part of the past 15 years, the budget has always been about what's in it for me. Do you think that people will actually look at what's in it for everyone else?
Well, this is the conversation that we've been having with the Australian people for some time, and which we'll be having with the Australian people over the next few weeks and months. This is a budget which is designed to build a better future. And yes, we are asking people to contribute to help build a stronger future for Australia. It's a budget that does put a stop to the unsustainable spending growth trajectory that we've inherited from our predecessors, as we think we must, because we just can't keep funding our consumption today through borrowings and imposing all of the repayments with interest on our children and grandchildren, reducing their opportunity as a result in the future. We can't do that.
Senator Cormann, Janine Perrett here, just on that issue.
Hi, Janine.
Hi. I just wanted to say on the issue of the deficit levy. Now, you quite wisely have not said, well, certainly in these projections, when you will return to surplus, and you know more than anyone that the Treasury estimates can be wrong, other factors can play in, like the collapse in the iron ore price. Given that it's still open, in 4 years' time, we're still going to have a small deficit. This deficit levy, you said tonight, was only for 3 years. Are you leaving yourself open, given that it was to pay off the deficit, are you leaving yourself open to extend it so that it continues until we are back in surplus?
No, we're not. And let me just say right up front, unlike our predecessors, we take responsibility for the revenue and expenditure estimates in the budget. We have taken a very realistic view on what is likely to happen with revenue and with spending. And unlike the previous government, we have not done anything shifty with the numbers. We've not manipulated numbers by shifting revenue or expenditure from one year to the next. The figures that are there are realistic estimates. And I guess what I would say is we inherited $123 billion worth of projected deficits. We've brought that down to about $60 billion of deficits over the next 4-year forward estimates. And if you look at the important point of what we've done is we have introduced a whole range of structural savings and structural reforms which start low and slow and which build over time and which continue to build beyond the forward estimates.
But the simple
that is a very important point.
The simple question, is there a 3-year limit on a deficit levy, or could it be extended if we are not back in surplus?
No, it could not be extended. There will be a sunset clause in the legislation, so the 2% effective increase in the top marginal tax rate for people earning more than $180,000 will be prescribed in legislation as being in place for 3 years, and it will automatically fall away at the end of those 3 years.
One more quick one I'm going to sneak in. I notice you've given a $10,000 bribe for businesses to employ people over 50, yet you've raised the pension age to 70. Isn't that an admission that it's going to be hard to employ even a 50-year-old, so almost impossible? How much are you going to pay them to employ a 69-year-old?
Well, firstly, the good news is that we do live longer, and we do live longer healthier than at the time when the pension age was set at 65, and people, hardly anyone was expected to get to 65. We do now live much longer, and with the aging of the population and falling workforce participations, we do have to work longer than what we might have in the past in order to contribute. Now, but having said that, we do understand that there are some attitudinal issues across businesses, and that there are some issues that we need to address to ensure that businesses actually take on older Australians as part of their productive workforce. And so really that measure, the restart measure, which is in this budget, is designed to help shift attitudes among business and help shift the culture with business when it comes to employing older Australians.
All right, last question for you, Finance Minister. What do you think was harder, putting together the budget or selling it?
Well, I mean, obviously, putting the budget together was, a lot of hard work, and we very carefully assessed all of the information and the options, and we went out of our way to make judgments that we think are right and for the right reasons, which will strengthen Australia. But from here on in, obviously, the job is to sell it, and it'll be a marathon, not a sprint, Paul. And we think it is very important that we get this right, because this is a budget that Australia needs.
All right, 23 million people in the country. You met a few tonight. Go and meet some more. See you later.
Thank you, Paul.
There he is, the Finance Minister from Canberra, Mathias Cormann. We'll be joined